There are 6 levels of intelligence, and most men dramatically overestimate where they stand. The cost of misjudging your true position is not embarrassment. It is a lifetime of being nudged, steered, provoked, and quietly used by forces you never see. Intelligence is not what schools reward, what tests measure, or what society praises. You were taught that intelligence is speed, memory, or correctness, when in reality it is survival under pressure, behavior under temptation, and control when stimuli demand reaction. This is why intelligent men still lose money, status, freedom, and direction, while slower men quietly rise above them. The most dangerous mistake is not lacking intelligence, but believing you have it when your behavior proves otherwise. Watch how people move when something unexpected happens. An insult, a delay, a loss, a promise, a notification, a pleasure placed just within reach. Their bodies answer before their minds arrive. Their mouths speak before consequences are calculated. Their fingers move before meaning is questioned. This is not personality. This is not temperament. This is not passion. This is the most common and most exploited form of intelligence on earth, and it is revealed not by what a man says about himself, but by how quickly he is pulled off his center by the world around him. Level 1, reactive intelligence, impulsive, emotional, ruled by stimuli and immediate gratification. Men at this level believe they are choosing, when in reality they are responding. They mistake urgency for importance and feeling for truth. Their days are governed by irritation, desire, boredom, and relief. They chase pleasure to escape discomfort and call it freedom. They justify anger as honesty and impulse as authenticity. They believe their reactions are evidence of strength, when in fact they are evidence of access. Anyone who can provoke you can direct you. Anyone who can soothe you can control you. Anyone who can excite you can sell to you. This level feels alive, intense, and expressive, but it is structurally weak because it never pauses long enough to see who is setting the tempo. The trap is subtle because it feels powerful in the moment. Reacting feels like action. Emotion feels like conviction. Speaking immediately feels like confidence. But every reaction is a disclosure. Every emotional surge reveals what you value, what you fear, and where your boundaries truly are. Higher operators do not need to overpower men like this. They simply introduce stimuli and wait. They place bait and observe movement. They manufacture outrage, urgency, scarcity, or validation, knowing exactly how the reactive mind will respond. By the time the reactive man believes he has decided, the decision has already been predicted. This is why entire populations can be steered with headlines, notifications, trends, and carefully timed provocations. The reactive mind does not ask who benefits. It asks how it feels. It does not test reality. It tests resonance. It moves toward what soothes discomfort and away from what threatens identity. This makes it predictable, and predictability is the raw material of control. Markets exploit it, politics feeds on it, relationships weaponize it, and the man living inside it rarely suspects he is being played because everything he does feels self-directed. What makes this level so dangerous is that it produces constant motion with zero leverage. You expend energy without gaining position. You speak without shaping outcomes. You act without altering the game. You are always busy and always behind. Worse, you defend this state fiercely, because admitting you are reactive would mean admitting that your proudest moments were orchestrated by someone else's timing. The reactive man laughs at strategy, mocks patience, and calls restraint weakness, not realizing these are the exact traits that protect higher forms of intelligence from exposure. There is a quiet humiliation embedded in this level that most men never confront. The realization that your strongest emotions were anticipated, that your angriest moments were profitable to someone else, that your pleasures were engineered, that your outrage followed a script, that your so-called instincts aligned perfectly with systems designed to harvest attention, money, loyalty, and time. And once you see this, you face an uncomfortable question. If your reactions can be predicted, influenced, and triggered at scale, how much of your life was ever truly yours? So before you claim intelligence, before you assume competence, before you trust your sense of agency, ask yourself this one destabilizing question, and do not answer it quickly. When the world presses a button, do you respond like a man who decides, or like a mechanism designed to react? Intelligence does not announce itself through originality, confidence, or independence the way people like to imagine. Most men believe they are thinking for themselves because their thoughts feel personal, familiar, and justified. But what feels personal is often inherited, what feels obvious is often repeated, and what feels true is often borrowed. The world does not need to silence most minds. It only needs to give them something to repeat. This is why entire crowds can feel certain without understanding, loyal without investigation, and righteous without reflection. They are not reacting anymore, they are aligning. You can recognize this level not by chaos, but by agreement. Not by impulse, but by imitation. Not by emotion, but by safety. It emerges the moment a man stops asking whether something is true and starts asking whether it is accepted. Level 2, imitative intelligence. Copy-driven, trend-following, dependent on external authority and consensus. Men operating here believe they are intelligent because they are informed. They know the right phrases, the correct positions, the approved opinions. They speak fluently in borrowed language and feel secure because their views are reinforced by numbers, credentials, or applause. They are not impulsive like the reactive mind. They are controlled in a more efficient way. Instead of being pulled by stimuli, they are guided by permission. They wait to see what is endorsed, rewarded, or punished, then align themselves accordingly. This feels like maturity. It feels like belonging. It feels like being on the right side of history. But it is still not control. The trap of this level is that it replaces instinct with instruction. The imitative mind does not ask what works. It asks what is approved. It does not seek leverage. It seeks validation. This makes it obedient without force. Once a narrative is established, the imitative mind enforces it on others, often more aggressively than the architects themselves. It polices deviation, shames dissent, and repeats slogans as if repetition itself were proof. The illusion of intelligence here comes from coherence. Everything fits together because it was designed to. But coherence is not truth, it is structure. This is the level most institutions prefer you to reach and never exceed. Schools, corporations, ideologies, and movements thrive on imitative intelligence because it scales. One idea can be duplicated millions of times with minimal resistance. The imitative man believes he has chosen his beliefs, unaware that the range of acceptable choices was decided long before he arrived. He confuses consensus with correctness and popularity with accuracy. He cannot see the cage because it is shared, and shared cages feel like culture. Higher intelligence tiers exploit this level effortlessly. They do not need to argue, they seed. They introduce frameworks, labels, and narratives, knowing the imitative mind will propagate them voluntarily. They understand that once an idea gains social proof, it no longer needs defense. The crowd becomes the weapon. Careers are built and destroyed here. Reputations are elevated and erased here. And the imitative man participates enthusiastically, believing he is standing for something, when in reality, he is standing in formation. What makes this level especially dangerous is that it punishes solitude and rewards conformity. The moment you step outside the script, you feel friction. Doubt is framed as ignorance. Curiosity is framed as threat. Independent observation is framed as betrayal. Over time, the imitative mind learns to self-censor before thought fully forms. This is not stupidity, it is adaptation. But it is adaptation to the wrong incentive structure. You learn to survive socially by surrendering intellectually. The quiet cost is devastating. You lose the ability to see beyond the narrative you are inside. You mistake repetition for understanding and alignment for intelligence. You believe you are informed because you are updated, unaware that updates can be controlled. And one day, you realize that every major decision you made felt safe at the time, praised at the time, and disastrous in retrospect. Not because you lacked information, but because you never owned your thinking. So ask yourself carefully, without rushing to reassure your ego, without reaching for what sounds acceptable. If your beliefs were unpopular, unsupported, or socially inconvenient, would they still survive, or would your intelligence disappear the moment the crowd looked the other way? There is a point where society finally rewards you, not for obedience or alignment, but for usefulness. You become valuable, you become competent, you learn how things work, how systems run, how processes move from idea to result. This is where many men stop questioning intelligence altogether, because life begins to respond to them. They are hired, relied upon, consulted. Their hands produce results, their minds solve problems, They are no longer easily replaced by anyone off the street, and because outcomes follow effort, they assume they have reached the upper tiers of intellect, unaware that usefulness and power are not the same currency. This level reveals itself the moment skill replaces imitation, and efficiency replaces opinion. It can be named cleanly, without praise or insult, because it is structurally limited. Level 3, technical intelligence. Skilled, efficient, competent, but confined to execution rather than control. Men here are respected for what they can do, not for what they decide. They know how to build, fix, calculate, optimize, and deliver. They understand systems from the inside, often better than the people who own them. This creates a dangerous illusion of leverage. The technically intelligent man believes proximity to function equals proximity to power. He believes that because he understands the machine, he must therefore influence its direction. But systems rarely reward understanding. They reward position, and position is not earned through execution alone. The trap of this level is pride in capability. You become indispensable, and indispensability feels like safety. You take comfort in being needed, not realizing that being needed is different from being untouchable. Technical intelligence ties your value to output. When output slows, when tools change, when automation advances, or when younger hands learn faster methods, your leverage erodes quietly. You are praised, overworked, and contained. The system flatters you just enough to keep you producing, never enough to let you command. Higher tiers depend on this level, the way generals depend on soldiers, and kings depend on architects. They do not compete with technical intelligence. They extract it. They frame visions, set objectives, and allocate resources, while the technically intelligent execute with discipline and pride. This is why the most skilled people often work for the least strategic ones. They confuse mastery of function with authority over outcome. They are close to the levers, but do not decide when they are pulled. What makes this level especially deceptive is that it punishes stepping outside your lane. The technically intelligent man is rewarded for focus, specialization, and precision, but subtly discouraged from questioning direction, ownership, or narrative. He is told to stay in his domain, to let others handle big-picture matters. Over time, he internalizes this boundary. He sharpens his craft while surrendering influence. His intelligence becomes narrow but deep, powerful but boxed. There is also a quiet resentment that forms here. The technically intelligent see inefficiencies above them. They notice poor decisions made by those with less understanding. They feel the friction of being smarter in execution, but powerless in strategy. This resentment either hardens into bitterness or dissolves into complacency. Both outcomes are useful to higher operators. A bitter man still works. A complacent man never challenges. Either way, control remains elsewhere. And so the uncomfortable question emerges, one that threatens the identity built on competence and skill. If your intelligence vanished the moment you stopped producing, stopped executing, or stopped being useful, was it ever intelligence that protected you, or were you simply well-trained inside a system that never intended to let you decide where it was going? At some point, intelligence stops looking like effort and starts looking like silence. The man no longer rushes to act, prove, or display competence. He watches. He notices timing instead of speed, positioning instead of motion, consequence instead of intention. While others focus on what is happening, he focuses on what will happen next. This is the first level where intelligence is no longer measured by output, but by foresight. And this is where most men begin to feel uneasy, because prediction feels unfair to those still reacting, imitating, or executing. This shift has a precise name, and it arrives quietly, without ceremony or applause. Level 4, strategic intelligence, pattern seeing, anticipatory, capable of long-term positioning and leverage. Men operating here are rarely the loudest or the busiest. They do not chase urgency because they understand that urgency is often manufactured to force bad decisions. They observe cycles, incentives, and human behavior across time, not moments. They recognize that most outcomes are determined long before the visible action begins. Where others see isolated events, the strategic mind sees sequences. Where others argue about facts, the strategic mind studies motives. This is not genius. It is patience weaponized. The trap of this level is isolation. Strategic intelligence separates you from the emotional tempo of the crowd, and distance is often mistaken for arrogance. You see moves before they happen, which makes participation feel premature. You hold back while others rush forward, which makes you look slow to those who confuse motion with progress. This level teaches you restraint, but it also tempts you into believing that seeing the board is the same as controlling it. It is not. Foresight without authority is still vulnerability. Higher tiers exploit this level by outsourcing anticipation without surrendering power. They consult strategists, analysts, planners, and advisors, extracting insight while retaining final say. The strategic mind believes proximity to decision-makers equals influence, but proximity is not position. You may predict the future accurately and still be ignored when it matters. You may warn of collapse and be dismissed until collapse validates you too late to benefit. Strategy without ownership is insight trapped behind glass. What makes this level dangerous is that it creates the illusion of superiority without immunity. You feel smarter than those below you, and often you are. But feeling smarter does not prevent you from being used. In fact, your foresight makes you more valuable to those above, and value attracts extraction. Your intelligence is harvested, not empowered. You are kept close enough to inform, far enough to prevent command. And because you understand the system, you often rationalize this arrangement longer than you should. There is also a subtle fear that emerges here. Once you see patterns, you cannot unsee them. You notice how decisions ripple years ahead, how incentives corrupt intentions, how narratives override truth. This awareness can paralyze as easily as it can empower. Many men remain here indefinitely, mistaking observation for dominance, analysis for control, and preparation for sovereignty. They know too much to be naive and too little to be untouchable. So ask yourself this with brutal honesty, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a threat to your self-image. If you can see the future forming but cannot shape it, are you truly intelligent, or are you simply a witness watching others decide how the game will be played? Intelligence reaches a point where prediction is no longer enough, where seeing the board does not satisfy the need to shape it. This is where intelligence turns outward and begins to work on people rather than systems. The man no longer asks what will happen, but what others will believe is happening. He understands that reality moves slower than perception, and that whoever controls interpretation controls momentum. This is where intelligence becomes dangerous, because it stops caring whether something is true and focuses entirely on whether it spreads. This shift condenses into a single, unforgiving definition. Level 5, political intelligence. Narrative shaping, influence-based, manipulating perception and group behavior. Men operating here rarely appear dominant at first glance. They do not need to. They work through alignment, framing, and timing. They understand that most people do not act on facts. They act on stories, signals, and social cues. So instead of forcing outcomes, they design environments where outcomes feel inevitable. They seed ideas, elevate certain voices, suppress others, and let the crowd believe it arrived at conclusions on its own. Power here is invisible, because visibility invites resistance. The trap of this level is moral erosion. Political intelligence rewards effectiveness, not integrity. You learn quickly that truth is optional, consistency is negotiable, and loyalty is transactional. The goal is not coherence, but dominance of interpretation. Over time, this corrodes the operator as much as the audience. You begin to see people as levers, emotions as tools, and crises as opportunities. And while this grants enormous influence, it also binds you to the very systems of perception you manipulate. You are never off stage, you are always managing optics. Lower levels are helpless against this tier. Reactive minds are triggered. Imitative minds propagate. Technical minds execute. Strategic minds advise. Political intelligence orchestrates them all without appearing to command. It decides what is discussed, what is ignored, and what is framed as inevitable. Careers rise and fall here. Enemies are neutralized without confrontation. Alliances shift not through argument, but through narrative gravity. And the crowd applauds, unaware it is being conducted. But there is a hidden ceiling. Political intelligence depends on attention, belief, and participation. It requires an audience. It feeds on engagement, and this creates vulnerability. When perception shifts faster than control, when narratives fracture, when audiences disengage or turn hostile, the politically intelligent scramble to reframe. Their power is immense but conditional. It exists only as long as others remain invested in the game being played. There is also a quiet paranoia that emerges. Once you understand how easily perception can be shaped, you stop trusting appearances entirely. Every smile is strategic. Every outrage is suspect. Every consensus feels engineered. You gain influence, but you lose certainty. You can move crowds, but you cannot rest inside truth, because truth is no longer your primary instrument. You live inside layers of performance, managing reality rather than inhabiting it. And this leads to a destabilizing question that most men at this level avoid asking, because the answer threatens everything they have built. If your intelligence only functions when others are watching, believing, and reacting, what happens to your power the moment you step outside the arena and no one is left to persuade? At the highest tier, intelligence no longer seeks leverage, visibility, or dominance over others. It withdraws. It simplifies. It becomes quiet in a way that unsettles every level beneath it. This is not retreat out of weakness, but removal out of clarity. The man no longer competes for control within systems because he understands that systems themselves are traps for attention, energy, and identity. Where others crave influence, he values insulation. Where others shape narratives, he dissolves their power by not requiring belief at all. This state has only one accurate name, and it is rarely understood by those still chasing position. Level 6, sovereign intelligence, detached, self-governing, operating above systems, incentives, and social pressure. Men operating here are almost invisible by design. They do not argue, signal, persuade, or perform. They have no need to be seen as intelligent because their intelligence is not relational. It does not depend on reaction, imitation, usefulness, foresight, or influence. It depends on self-command. They decide their pace, their exposure, their commitments, and their exits without explanation. They are not optimized for approval, relevance, or scale. They are optimized for autonomy. The trap of this level is temptation to re-enter the game. Sovereign intelligence grants freedom, but freedom can feel empty to those accustomed to resistance. There is no applause here, no hierarchy to climb, no crowd to command. Many glimpse this level briefly and retreat, because identity collapses when there is no role to play. To remain sovereign, a man must relinquish the need to be acknowledged, feared, or remembered. This is a cost few are willing to pay, even if they understand the reward. Every lower tier misinterprets this level. Reactive minds call it apathy. Imitative minds call it deviance. Technical minds call it inefficiency. Strategic minds call it waste. Political minds call it irrelevance. None of them see the advantage, because the advantage does not express itself outwardly. It expresses itself as immunity. The sovereign mind cannot be baited, pressured, rushed, or incentivized. It is unreachable by design, and what cannot be reached cannot be controlled. This is why truly sovereign individuals are rare and often misunderstood. They do not seek to dominate systems because they do not need them. They build lives with optionality, redundancy, and distance. They choose obscurity over exposure, simplicity over expansion, and permanence over momentum. Their intelligence is not displayed through action, but through refusal. Refusal to react, refusal to imitate, refusal to overproduce, refusal to manipulate, refusal to depend. But sovereignty comes with a final, unsettling realization. Once you no longer need the game, you see it clearly for what it is, a contest designed to consume those who need it. You watch ambition exhaust itself. You watch influence rot. You watch narratives collapse under their own weight. And you remain untouched, not because you are stronger, but because you are no longer participating. So answer this honestly, without reaching for pride or reassurance, because there is nowhere left to hide behind intelligence now. If no one could see you, reward you, follow you, or resist you, would anything about the way you live still prove that you were free? If you have made it this far, it is because a part of you already knows this truth. Intelligence is not what schools reward or what society praises. It is how you behave under pressure, how you move when tempted, and how well you see patterns others never notice. Most people believe they are intelligent while living entirely at the mercy of impulses, opinions, and systems they do not understand. Now tell me in the comments which level you honestly recognize yourself in. Not the one you admire, but the one your actions reveal. If this message touched you and made sense, write in the comments, "I know my level." Let us see how many here are truly ready to rise instead of pretending. And do not forget, keep watching the next video. It is important. much more than you imagine. See you there.